Discover the miraculous truth, how YHWH and Elohim reveal God's divine plan for your life. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, when the armies of Israel trembled, a young shepherd named David, anointed by the prophet Samuel, tended his father Jesse's flock among the airy hills outside Jerusalem. The lambs bleated gently, their cries mingling with the whispers of the wind that danced across the rocky pastures. David found solace in the beauty of God's creation, his heart aligned with faith in YHWH, pondering the mysteries of life and destiny. As the people of Israel crushed under the oppressive weight of King Saul's despair, a shadow loomed over the battlefield, a towering Philistine warrior named Goliath. Day after day, he bellowed his defiance, challenging the armies of Israel, casting curses upon their God. While seasoned warriors quaked in fear, David remained blissfully unaware, tending his sheep and meditating upon the wonders of creation. Yet, even in the stillness of the fields, the Spirit stirred within him. One day, David was sent to bring provisions to his brothers. Upon his arrival at the front lines, he was struck by the vile taunts echoing across the valley of Elah. "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" he declared, a righteous anger igniting within him. Curious whispers circulated among the troops, their eyes widening at the sight of this youth challenging the fears that paralyzed them. His brothers scorned him, yet David's heart blazed with conviction. Hearing the words of the king, Saul summoned David, and the young shepherd stood resolute. "Let no man's heart fail because of him, I will go and fight this Philistine," he said. He recounted tales of bravery, how he had saved his flock from the paw of the lion and the bear, knowing that YHWH, who had delivered him from such foes, would also deliver him from Goliath. Before King Saul, David's faith radiated. Saul, desperate yet bewildered, offered his heavy armor, but David declined. Instead, with a simple staff and 5 smooth stones from the brook, he stepped toward the battlefield. As he strode forth, the ground beneath him felt alive, an arena where faith would confront fear, YHWH's divine power readying for manifestation. As David approached, Goliath laughed disdainfully, mocking the youth who dared challenge him. Yet David, emboldened by the Spirit of God, declared, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of YHWH, the God of the armies of Israel." The air grew thick with suspense, the eyes of Israel's warriors fixed upon the shepherd boy, holding his ground against the seemingly insurmountable odds. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. David readied his slingshot, tension crackling in the air as Goliath surged forward, a Goliath indeed but backed by no divine authority. With a steady hand, David launched the stone with precision, a seemingly trivial act set against a backdrop of cosmic conflict, faith against fear, the heavenly against the earthly. The breath of destiny hung on the precipice of this moment, inviting all who knew the story to witness not just a battle, but a revelation of God's miraculous purpose woven into the fabric of time. As the stone flew from David's slingshot, the heavens themselves seemed to hold their breath. It struck Goliath squarely in the forehead, a divine marksmanship where human prowess faltered. The giant staggered, disbelief etched upon his features, before collapsing to the ground with a thunderous finality. Silence enveloped the valley, a divine moment carved into the annals of history. The men of Israel, paralyzed by fear only moments before, erupted in a roar of triumph. YHWH has delivered our enemy into our hands, they exclaimed, their chants rising like smoke to the heavens. David, having secured victory through faith, stood over Goliath, the sword of the fallen giant in his hand, a symbol of God's sovereign power against the forces of evil. Then, as the clamoring voices of his fellow Israelites filled the air, David paused, humbled before the Lord. It was not by his might, nor by his sword, that he had achieved victory, but by the very name of YHWH. He fell to his knees, lifting the sword skyward in thanksgiving, acknowledging the true source of his strength. Before the armies of Israel, he turned to face them. Let this act be a sign, for the battle is YHWH's, and he does not save by sword or spear. His words echoed through the hearts of those assembled, igniting a fervor that had long since flickered in the shadows of their despair. Meanwhile, the Philistine ranks, shaken by the sudden turn of events, broke in confusion and disarray. With a great shout, the Israelites charged forward, emboldened by faith and fueled by the glory of YHWH. The enemies of Israel were routed with astonishing speed, their cries of terror filling the air, as the Israelites pursued them with the vigor of divine wrath. As the dust settled and the valley became a place of victory, word of David's extraordinary feat spread like fire through the land. King Saul, in the midst of his awe, summoned David to his presence. Long shadows fell over the camp as David entered the king's tent, still clad in the remnants of battle. "Young man," Saul began, his voice a mixture of curiosity and admiration, "who are you? For your deeds today shall be remembered throughout the ages." "I am but the son of Jesse," David replied humbly. "A shepherd who has seen the faithfulness of YHWH. He who delivered me from the lion and the bear is he who has delivered me from this Philistine." Saul gazed deep into David's eyes, recognizing a spark of something greater than mere courage, a divine calling, a future king of Israel who would come to embody the heart of YHWH among his people. And so, David began to rise within the ranks of Israel, the people's heart of hope, yet, with every ascent, shadows of envy began to stir in the heart of Saul. Jealousy would soon weave a complex tapestry of intrigue and danger, threatening to unravel what had just been stitched in faith. For unbeknownst to the young shepherd, the path forward would not be a bed of roses but a tumultuous journey through trials that would test not only his faith but his very identity as a leader. The winds of providence began to blow anew, setting the stage for challenges that would reveal the depth of both David's heart and the sovereign plan of YHWH. As whispers of David's name filled the very air of Israel, an impending storm remained on the horizon, leaving the people pondering, why had God chosen this shepherd boy in such a perilous time? What divine purpose lay ahead for Israel and David alike? The unfolding of the mystery awaited, promising trials that would one day lead to a covenant far greater than any they could presently fathom. And it came to pass that after David's victory over Goliath, the hearts of the Israelites surged with joy, filling the skies with praises unto YHWH. The sound of their singing rang out as a clarion call across the hills, heralding a new era of hope. David found himself embraced by the people, their admiration piling upon him like weighty stones, gleaming with the glory of the Almighty. "Saul has slain his thousands," the women sang, their voices soaring high, "but David his tens of thousands." This refrain pierced through the fibers of Saul's spirit, cutting deeper than the sharpest of swords. For within him, a tempest brewed, born of pride and the fear that his time as king might dwindle into memory under the favor of YHWH bestowed upon this shepherd lad. Yet, David remained unaware of the growing shadows looming just beyond his horizon. Having returned from the battle, his heart swelled not with boasting but with a humble reassessment. "What have I done to deserve this partition of praise?" He whispered to the heavens, seeking wisdom in the silence of night. In his heart, he remained a shepherd, yet destiny whispered to him that he was called to be more. Then, on the morrow, King Saul summoned David to his service with heavy heart but compelled by an unspoken force. "Stay with me now, for you are to be my armor-bearer," Saul commanded, though his voice trembled with unrecognized dread. David's spirit soared, but the shadows within the king burgeoned, manifesting in distrust and spiraling contempt. Days turned into weeks, and as David played sweet melodies upon his harp, soothing Saul's tumultuous spirit, an inner discord festered like a wound unhealed. The once tender notes that calmed despair now rolled like thunder in the heart of the king. With every plucked string, the flicker of envy swelled, igniting a fierce fury at the thought that this boy might usurp what God had anointed. One fateful eve while in the court, fueled by an unholy rage, Saul cast a spear at David, seeking to pierce his young heart in the midst of song. Yet, YHWH, in his infinite mercy, directed David's swift movements, and the spear struck the wall behind him, a testament to divine protection. The foreshadowing of the might that David would wield did not yet envelop the king, but he swiftly ordered David from his presence. Thus, David fled into the night, guided by the whispering winds of YHWH's providence. Alone, he sought refuge in fields and caves, surrounded by brotherhood in adversity, drawing others who, too, were diminished by Saul's reign of fear. They came to him, harried and weary, and he became their leader, instilling hope where hopelessness once reigned. In the shadows of these caves, he learned not only the skill of a warrior but the depth of his calling. For it was not merely to conquer foes but to touch the hearts of men, drawing them toward the faithfulness of the God who had swept him up from the sheepfold. As the sun began to rise over the mountains of Judah, the question echoed throughout the land. What was YHWH's true purpose for David? And what course would he chart through these trials of jealousy and strife? The scrolls foretold of a king after God's own heart, yet the way ahead thickened with thorns. Little did they know, the unfolding tapestry of YHWH's plan was yet to weave together alliances and covenants that would form the very foundation of hope for generations to come. What trials would test David's faith and prepare him for the throne? Only the unfolding story of God's divine plan could reveal the greatest truths yet to come. And it came to pass that David, now accompanied by a band of outcasts and warriors, found strength in their loyalty and shared burdens. In the twilight hours, they would gather under the canopy of stars, recounting tales of valor, and seeking YHWH's guidance. As the shadows danced around the flickering flames, David, his spirit united with his comrades, lifted his voice in prayer. "O Lord of hosts," he cried, "be my light in darkness, and let not my soul falter before those who seek my life." Meanwhile, in the halls of kingship, Saul's reign grew bleak. His mind became a tempest, haunted by visions of David's rising power. For despair took root, and he sought not only to kill David but also to hush his own conscience, which whispered of sin and folly. Frequent were the advisers who gathered around Saul, yet none could extract the venom of jealousy from his heart. "Am I not king?" He would rage, yet within, darkness rumbled a storm brewing against divine destiny. Thus, it was that one day, under the cloak of treachery, Saul summoned Jonathan, his son, who held love for David not only as a brother in arms but as a friend in spirit. "Tell me, dear son," Saul urged, "how does David fare amongst the people? Is his heart still set on our enemies?" Jonathan, wise and discerning, sensed the peril and said, "Father, David acts righteously before you, and he is a man truly beloved. His heart is for YHWH. Yet Saul's anger flared, and his heart hardened further. "Go, son, and observe him," he commanded, "for I will bring about an end to this disdain of my throne." Jonathan, burdened by the fear of a father's wrath, sought to protect his beloved David. That night, he made his way to the rugged cliffs where David hid, concealed behind overgrown thickets. "David," Jonathan whispered, "you must listen. My father has schemed against you, and his heart is set against your life." David looked up, the firelight flickering in his eyes, reflecting both fear and faith. "What shall I do?" he implored, the very stones around them echoing his turmoil. Jonathan, filled with the spirit of YHWH, answered, "Stay steadfast and trust the Lord. He shall not abandon you, for you are chosen." They swore an oath in that solemn moment, each pledging loyalty and friendship, bound not solely by cause but by the covenant of YHWH. Days turned into nights, and the chasm of hostility grew deeper. Saul, relentless in his pursuit, dispatched troops across the land. David evaded capture through the desolate hills, ever guided by divine providence. Each step he took echoed words from YHWH through the prophecies delivered. A king he would be, yet first a servant among the forsaken. As David navigated through both wilderness and anguish, he found himself closer to the heart of God. In the solitude of caves, he penned psalms that declared the faithfulness of the Almighty, stirring hearts by the echo of his soul. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," he sang, declaring with boldness the truths of divine care even amid despair. Little did they know, the clouds of God's promise churned above. A greater test loomed, and the foundation of David's life would not only be his survival but the very essence of trust in YHWH's plan. How the tale would unfold remained cloaked in the divine will, for it was a journey not just of survival, but of fulfilling covenant, a tapestry woven more intricately than any could predict. And so, as the winds howled through the hills, a deeper question arose: what ultimate purpose awaited David beyond this chase of shadows? Who would arise in faith and stand with him when the storm within met the storm without? Only time, molded by the hand of YHWH, would unveil these wonders, echoing the truth that God restores and fulfills his promises even through the fiercest of trials. And it came to pass, as David and his men sought refuge near the wilderness of Maon, a messenger from a distant land came with news that stirred the hearts of all who heard it. David, behold, he proclaimed with urgency, the Philistines have invaded the land and have raided the threshing floors of Keilah. David, stirred with righteous zeal, turned to his companions. Shall we go and fight against these uncircumcised Philistines, who defy the armies of the living God? His words ignited a fire within them, and they replied, in our hearts, we are ready. Let us go forth in YHWH's strength. Yet, David, being a man of wisdom and seeking the counsel of YHWH, inquired of the Lord. O Lord, shall I go and strike these Philistines? The answer resounded in his spirit, Go, for I will deliver them into your hand. Filled with faith, David gathered his men and set forth to battle. As they surged into the valley, they were met with fierce opposition from the Philistines, but David, buoyed by the Lord's promise, fought valiantly. The clash of swords echoed like thunder, and through the might of YHWH, the Philistines were scattered, and a great victory was won that day. When they returned to Keilah, rejoicing in their triumph, there arose a newfound shadow of dread. Saul heard of David's presence there and sought to encircle him, intent on capturing this foe who threatened his throne. Fear gripped the heart of David as he pondered Saul's wicked intent. He sought YHWH once more, praying, Shall I be delivered into Saul's hand? Will the people of Keilah betray me? YHWH responded, revealing the truth, Yes, they will betray you. Distressed but resolute, David called upon his loyal band of warriors. We must leave this city, for the hand of Saul is upon us. In the cover of darkness, they fled into the wilderness, moving from cave to cave, navigating the treacherous paths of the mountains, evading the relentless pursuit of Saul. Each night they would gather, not knowing where the next challenge would arise. They would whisper psalms and elevate their hearts in worship, bearing the weight of their trials with courage, firmly rooted in God's sovereign plans. Meanwhile, the heart of Jonathan, torn between loyalty to his father and his love for David, sought to find his dear friend. He braved the danger of Saul's wrath and sought David in the wilderness of Ziph. Finding him, Jonathan encouraged him, saying, Fear not, for my father shall not find you. You shall be king over Israel, and I shall be beside you. The bond between them grew deeper, a testament to the unwavering spirit of friendship reflecting the very heart of YHWH's covenant love. They renewed their covenant before the Lord, a promise that spanned beyond their earthly trials, binding them forever in faith and loyalty. Yet unbeknownst to them, as darkness loomed closer, YHWH's hand was preparing a greater revelation. For the path of trials was not merely to test their resolve, but to mold them into vessels of honor, fit for his divine purpose. In the quiet moments beneath the open sky, when hope flickered like the dying embers of the fire, a prophetic word came into the heart of David, You are not merely running for your life. You are running towards a purpose that only YHWH can fulfill. What lay ahead was shrouded in mystery, yet the confidence was growing, for the promise loomed, and David's destiny was being forged in the fires of affliction. Would he cling to the divine assurances amidst uncertainty? Only eternity would unveil the full breadth of God's sovereign resolve, echoing through the ages in the hearts of all who would trust in his unfailing plan. And it came to pass that as David and his men wandered in the wilderness of Ziph, weary yet vigilant, they sought refuge in the shadows of the rocks, ever cautious of Saul's relentless pursuit. The wilderness, with its sharp cliffs and hidden caves, became their bitter friend and fierce enemy, a place of both shelter and sorrow. In the stillness of one dark night, as the stars twinkled dimly overhead, David lifted his voice in prayer, seeking once again the counsel of YHWH. His heart was heavy, burdened by the weight of fear and uncertainty. O Lord, how long must I endure this trial? How long shall my enemy pursue my soul? His words drifted into the abyss of the night, echoing the anguish of his soul. But YHWH, in his mercy, did not leave David unanswered. A gentle whisper stirred in the depths of David's spirit, comforted by the truth, "Fear not, for I am with you. You shall not fall into the hand of Saul." David felt renewed strength wash over him, such was the power of the Lord's presence. He rose and gathered his weary men. "Let us take heart, for YHWH, our God, guides us. Even in this wilderness, he prepares a feast for us, and no enemy shall prevail." Thus, they continued their journey, moving swiftly through the rugged terrain, ever watchful. Yet the shadow of King Saul loomed large, and even as David sought refuge in the wilderness, the hand of providence began to move in unusual ways. For it came to pass that deep in the woods, Saul too encamped with his army, convinced that he would soon apprehend his foe. In that moment, the Lord stirred in the heart of Jonathan, who felt a pull to seek not only his friend but also the truth of YHWH's plans for David. With a band of trusted men, he journeyed through the wilderness, guided by the very hand of God. When he reached David, their hearts quickened, and Jonathan spoke with fervor, "I am come to see you, my brother. Fear not, for our covenant stands. YHWH will surely deliver you, and you shall reign over Israel." David, heartened by the presence of Jonathan, felt again the weight of hope settle within. "What shall we do, for Saul seeks my life still?" he inquired, the earnestness of his voice palpable in the night air. Jonathan answered, "I will return to my father and speak of you, for the heart of YHWH is upon you. Know that our God is a God of deliverance, he shall make a way when there seems to be none." Yet, in the still of that dark hour, the unseen hand of YHWH was moving beyond human understanding, for unbeknownst to David and Jonathan, the very plans of Saul were being thwarted by divine intervention. A report came to Saul that the Philistines had invaded his own territory, drawing him away from his pursuit of David. As dawn broke, and Saul hurried to face this new threat, David and his men, guided by Jonathan's counsel, withdrew further into the mountains, knowing their enemy had turned. In the depths of that wilderness, amidst the trials and uncertainties, a remarkable realization dawned upon David: the Lord's paths are often veiled in mystery, but I shall trust in him always, for my life is in his hands. Little did they know, the way forward held greater wonders, for a nation awaited a king shaped by struggle, destined for greatness. For YHWH's plans, though cloaked in shadows, were unfolding to draw all toward his divine promise. Would David stand strong, trusting in the unfolding tapestry of God's will? Only the unfolding chapters would reveal the magnitude of the sovereign purpose YHWH held for his chosen servant. And it came to pass, as David and his men withdrew deeper into the rugged mountains, the air thick with silence, that the burden of their plight began to weigh heavily on their souls. They found a secluded glen, where the trees whispered softly with the gentle breeze, and there they set camp. David, though weary, felt a stirring within him, prompting him to sing praises to YHWH. "How majestic is your name, O Lord," he lifted his voice, his melody spiraling heavenward with the morning light. "For you are my refuge, my fortress, my God, in whom I trust." And as he sang, his men, caught in the shadow of despair and uncertainty, found new strength in the beauty of his faith. Yet the heart of Saul was not at rest. Following the report of the Philistines, he gathered his remaining forces, only to find himself consumed with rage and bitterness against David. "Is there not one among you who can direct me to the son of Jesse?" Saul demanded, his voice cutting through the tension in his court. And behold, a servant spoke, "Lo, we have heard of his great might and the loyalty of those who follow him. But he hides in the wilderness, and YHWH seems to favor him. At this, King Saul's anger flared. He could not comprehend the divine plan at work, nor the purpose hidden from his sight. Meanwhile, Jonathan, still mindful of his friend, felt a deep unease in his heart. The bond they shared compelled him to act. He could not stand idly by while David faced imminent danger. Thus, he resolved to seek the Lord on behalf of David. He gathered his men and set forth, determined to uncover the Lord's will amidst the tumult. As Jonathan traversed the wilderness, he prayed earnestly. "O YHWH, guide my steps and reveal your plan. If my friend is to be king, then I must understand how to protect him." His heart ached with the burden of their friendship, and he felt heaven's pressure guiding him onward. In the hidden nook of the valley, David, unaware of Jonathan's quest, wrestled in prayer. "O Lord," he cried, "may your will be done. I surrender my life to the plans you have fashioned for me. Even if I must face the shadow of death, I will trust in your unfailing love." And behold, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the land, there stood Jonathan, a beacon of hope amidst the dusk. "David," he called, a hint of urgency in his voice, "YHWH has sent me to protect you. Come, let us speak of what we must do, for the heart of our God is upon you." They nestled beneath the cover of a great rock, and Jonathan revealed to David the turmoil in Saul's heart. "My father seeks to destroy you, but I believe YHWH will deliver you, my brother. For your life is hidden in the covenant we have made, and YHWH's hand is upon you." At those words, faith surged within David. "May the Lord be praised!" he exclaimed. "But how shall we evade my enemy? The walls close in, and his wrath draws near." Jonathan replied, "We must devise a plan. I shall return to Saul, feigning ignorance, and you shall remain here. YHWH will reveal a sign by which we shall know how to proceed." They clasped hands, sealing their covenant anew, for their souls were intertwined by the loyalty that transcended earthly kingdoms. Yet unknown to them, the plans of the Almighty were already set in motion. For even as David prayed, and as Jonathan strategized, the very forces of creation aligned to protect the anointed king. In the midst of trial, YHWH's sovereignty was interwoven into the fabric of their story, a thread leading toward destiny. And as the darkness began to descend upon the wilderness, punctuated by the distant calls of unseen creatures, a deeper mystery loomed on the horizon. What unseen forces were aligning? What greater challenge awaited David? How would the Lord, in his infinite wisdom, reveal his divine plan in the days to come? The hearts of the faithful stirred with anticipation, for the path before them would uncover the miracles of YHWH's design, far beyond what they could comprehend. And it came to pass that in the quiet of the night, beneath the vast canopy of stars, David prepared his heart to listen for YHWH. He sought divine counsel in the stillness, yearning for reassurance of God's promise. "O Lord," he whispered, "you know my heart's desire is to be faithful to you. Guide my steps through this wilderness." Meanwhile, Jonathan approached the gates of Saul's stronghold, his heart heavy with the knowledge of his father's wrath. As he entered, he was met with anxious glances from the servants, who whispered among themselves. Jonathan's spirit trembled, for he perceived the weight of bloodshed that weighed upon his father, who was now driven by the darkness of jealousy. "Father," he greeted Saul, "may your heart find peace this day. What news comes from the land?" Saul's face clouded with fury as he directed his gaze towards Jonathan. "Is it not enough that the son of Jesse steals the hearts of men and women?" Saul declared with scorn. "He flouts your kingship while our enemies gather." Jonathan, sensing the turmoil within Saul, responded gently, "But father, what harm has he done? David serves you loyally. Should not loyalty be rewarded?" At these words, the veins on Saul's temple throbbed, and he spoke bitterly, "Loyalty is but a mirage when one acts with treachery behind silken veils. Seek David, and by my hand shall he be found, lest he rise in power against me." Jonathan's heart sank. He knew that David was a man after God's own heart, his faith shone like the morning star. "I will not bring harm to him," Jonathan replied, but the resolution in his voice was met with an icy stare that pierced through the air. Back in the hidden glen, David sensed the urgency of his friend's mission. He prayed fervently, "YHWH, I lay my fears before you. Though my enemies surround me like a flood, you are my strong tower, and I shall trust in your deliverance." As dawn broke, a sudden rustle drew his attention, and he turned to find Jonathan before him, breathless and besieged by anxiety. "David, the king's fury rises like a tempest," Jonathan exclaimed. "Yet I have come to warn you that Saul is resolute in his determination to snuff out your life." With a heavy heart, Jonathan recounted the words of Saul, revealing the covenantal bond David held with the Lord was the very thing that ignited King Saul's wrath. David's countenance darkened, but with a slow breath, he responded, "Your presence here brings my soul comfort, my brother. You have spoken truth, yet I cannot hide away forever. The Lord's will be done. But tell me the sign YHWH shall give us, for I will not part from my faith." In that moment, Jonathan's eyes illuminated with divine clarity, "We shall set an appointed time. I will go to Saul. If I am granted favor, you shall remain safe. If my father's heart hardens further, then the sign shall be one of arrows. Should I say to a lad, 'The arrows are beyond you,' know that danger is near. But if I say, 'The arrows are on this side,' then you shall know that you may safely return." And they embraced, their hearts bound by loyalty and the weight of destiny unfolding. As they parted ways, a chill filled the air as David's heart trembled at the thought of his beloved friend returning to heartache. Yet in the crevices of fear, a flicker of hope remained, for he knew the God he served. As the shadows deepened, both men faced the looming unknown, a tapestry intricately woven just beyond their vision. What further trials awaited them? How would the thread of destiny continue to intertwine their lives? For amidst the darkness of human ambition and strife, YHWH had prepared a path towards divine revelation, one that would reveal his unchanging purpose for David, and ultimately, the redemption of a nation. And it came to pass that Jonathan stood at the threshold of his father's throne room, a restless spirit clinging to the mantle of his duty. He entered, girding himself with courage, for he knew the abyss of rage that lay within Saul. The king's countenance was a storm, shadows danced upon his brow, and the air was thick with the scent of unyielding wrath. "Jonathan," Saul bellowed, "I have summoned you. Do you not sense the treachery that festers at our gates? That David, that shepherd, has emboldened the hearts of the people against me." The echo of Saul's voice resonated like thunder, shaking the very marrow of Jonathan's bones. "Father," Jonathan spoke, his voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of concern, "can we not seek to understand what he has done to earn such hatred? Hear me. David is a loyal servant, he has fought for you against our enemies. His hands have carried the victory of Israel." Yet as he spoke, he felt the sharp chill of rejection, a bitter wind against the warmth of his conviction. Saul's fury ignited, his eyes blazing like coals. "Loyalty is but a guise, Jonathan. He has charmed the hearts of men, and should I falter, he will seize my crown." At these words, Jonathan felt the weight of his lineage press down upon him. The tension between love for his father and the truth of his heart for David ignited a war within him. "Father, I implore you," he pleaded, "do not choose wrath over wisdom. Let us seek to understand his intentions." But Saul's heart hardened, and Jonathan perceived that he was gazing into the heart of darkness, a darkness that sought to consume even the light of his own son's affection. Meanwhile, as Jonathan wrestled with his father's tempest, David remained near the hidden glen, a place he had sought refuge. Hours seemed like days as he contemplated the fate that awaited him. The whisper of the wind echoed the promise of God to his soul, yet darkness loomed at the fringes of his mind. Would he indeed be called to lead? Or was his deliverance to be found in flight? He knelt upon the earth, his hands gripping the soil as he cried out, "O YHWH, my rock, and my refuge. Reveal to me your path, for I am but a servant lost in the shadows. I pray for a glimpse of your sovereign hand amidst this chaos." The weight of his words vibrated through the air, stirring the heavens and preparing the stage for what was to come. At that moment, Jonathan returned, breathless from his encounter. "David, I bear news laden with burdens. My father's heart is set against you, yet I have vowed not to abandon you. Speak of the sign that YHWH has ordained." David opened his mouth to speak but paused, sensing the gravity of the moment. "We shall wait for the signal of the arrows, as I have promised," David affirmed, his voice resonating with faith. "Whatever befalls, we must hold true to the covenant between our souls." As they embraced once more, two hearts entwined in loyalty and fate, a sudden hush fell upon the glen, broken only by the distant cries of their kin. The weight of divine purpose rested heavily upon them, a promise cloaked in uncertainty, yet shimmering with potential. For who could have known that within this flight from despair, YHWH was about to unfold a divine revelation? How would the promise made to David prepare him for the throne, and what would the path of betrayal reveal about the steadfast love of Elohim? Thus, the threads of destiny began weaving with fervor, and the lives of Jonathan and David were destined to intersect again. What awaited them on the road ahead as the truth of God's mighty hand began to inscribe itself upon the tapestry of their lives? The answer lingered on the horizon, veiled in divine mystery, beckoning them into the embrace of his unchanging plan. And it came to pass that after many trials and tribulations, the Lord prepared the hearts of David and Jonathan for the final act of their story, a truth woven with courage, fidelity, and divine purpose. In the wilderness stretched before them, they understood the depths of their friendship and the weight of their calling, for YHWH had guided their paths with a sure hand. The days grew heavy with anticipation as Jonathan, steadfast in his loyalty, sought every opportunity to shield David from the wrath of Saul. Yet the king's anger blazed brighter, consuming him with paranoia and relentless pursuit. "What have I done to deserve this treachery?" Saul bellowed in confinement, his delusions of David's rebellion echoing through the hallways of his mind. In the face of such turmoil, David, still dwelling in the caves of Adullam, learned to rest his heart upon the promises of God. "O Lord, my soul waits in silence for you," he cried unto the heavens, "for you alone are my rock and my salvation." Solace pervaded his spirit, and his psalms became a melody of hope for his harried warriors, who found strength in their leader's unwavering faith. Then came the day when Jonathan ventured once more unto the dark throne of Saul, a truth heavy upon his lips. With a calm resolve, he pleaded earnestly before his father, "O king, David has done no wrong. He has brought forth victories for Israel and fought valiantly. Shall we cast aside his loyalty for the specter of fear?" His voice trembled, yet the words flowed with fervor. The king's eyes narrowed, and despite Jonathan's entreaty, the venom of his jealousy pulsed through every word. "You dare stand in the defense of that dog?" he spat, and as Saul's wrath erupted, the darkness within consumed the last flicker of love he retained for his son. Enraged, the king hurled a spear, narrowly missing Jonathan and embedding itself in the wall, a reflection of the greater strife waging within. Jonathan stumbled backward, his heart shattered between loyalty and heartbreak. "Father, you blind yourself to the truth. May the Lord have mercy on you." With that, he fled the court, driven by the urgent need to warn David of the encroaching danger. When they met in the familiar hidden glen, Jonathan's breath came in gasps as he conveyed Saul's fury. "David, my brother, the tempest has risen. We must not wait, we will devise a plan to keep you safe." Each word rang with urgency, and David's heart ached for the burdens Jonathan bore on his behalf. "Fear not, my friend," David replied, the strength of their covenant entwined in his words. "Your heart illuminates the path we must walk. I shall go on, for our Lord has called me to rise, yet I care for you as I would for my own soul. Let us reaffirm our bond, for the days ahead will bring challenges none could foresee." They knelt together and renewed their vow before YHWH, setting the course for loyalty that would outlast the trials of kings and the depths of despair. As the night deepened, while David and Jonathan strategized, YHWH moved with great power behind the curtain of human affairs. The Lord routed the advancing Philistines, diverting attention away from David, orchestrating a sanctuary amidst chaos. Saul, embroiled in his violence against enemies afar, could not capture the scent of the future king. In the coming days, David sought refuge among the tribes of Israel, wielding both sword and spirit to unite a beleaguered nation. His prowess grew not only in combat but in wisdom, leading his people despite the snares of Saul's bitterness. The hearts of the Israelites began to rally around him, ignited by hope for liberation. Then, as YHWH wove the threads of destiny, a moment came. Upon a hill so dense with history, David stood, fearlessly declaring, "O Israel, for we shall no longer languish under the weight of despair. YHWH has appointed a leader among you, one who shall shepherd you into the light." The masses erupted in joy, their voices streaming skyward, filling the heavens with worthy praise to the God of Israel. Saul, peering from the shadows, felt the tremors of his crumbling kingdom, yet his heart was veiled in darkness. Jealousy bled into paranoia, and he sought a far grimmer means to quell the rising light that was David, vowing within to extinguish this new flame. His armies would march, struck by fury and led by ambition, as the final clash between light and shadow loomed near. And thus it was that the day of confrontation arrived, where heaven's thunders met the battle cries of men. David, fearless, strode forth into the gathering storm, emboldened by the steadfast love of YHWH and the spirit of his friend Jonathan. Trust well formed in trials held him aloft as he raised his sword, declaring, "YHWH fights for us. Today we shall witness the salvation of the Lord." As the clash of swords rang out, the breath of heaven filled the valley. Angels bore witness as faith challenged fear, and the destinies of these men were shaped forever by the open hand of God. When the dust settled, the heart of the nation had shifted toward David, a flame that could not be dimmed. And with each step he took towards his appointed reign, he shouted praises, for he knew the battles were won not by might or power, but by the spirit of YHWH. Through betrayal and honor, through valleys and triumph, a king's heart had been forged in the fires of adversity. YHWH had fulfilled his promise, and David would ascend upon the throne of Israel, forever bound to his covenant with Jonathan, a bond echoing in ages to come. And as we turn to our own journeys, may we embrace this call to fidelity and faith, standing firm in the truths of our Lord. For YHWH is ever about his work, drawing us into his story, where redemption waits patiently, nestled within our very souls. If this narrative inspires you, beloved listener, you need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and not miss the next powerful biblical stories. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm, and comment below with your spiritual reflections and how this biblical story impacted your faith. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth across the earth. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony, for only true believers understand the importance of supporting biblical content to reach more souls for Christ.